Welcome to Cryptoland. I'm Krishna Andavolu. Today, it's all about the blockchain utopia. A lot of early adopters of crypto are getting really rich. But for diehards, crypto is about more than making money. It's an idea that today's governments should stay out of regulating currencies. And it's a way for some of them to build their own governments. Vice's Matthew Castle headed to Eastern Europe to check out the third annual Floating Man Festival, where a group of utopians have gathered to make their dreams come true on the Danube.
I'm honored, that we can have this ceremony. I think this is a great step towards building of Liberland. That's what we are here for. And I think it's not just about building physical place, but it's also a spiritual thing, actually.
This ceremony is celebrating a nation that the rest of the world doesn't acknowledge as real. But for everyone here, it's not only real, it represents the future of their shared interests, libertarianism and cryptocurrency. And this fire is part of a whole festival dedicated to it.
So may this seal the success of this festival, and may this be the first bigger event that will grow every year. Come and join us for a great party on the beaches of Liberland.
We're here in Serbia, just next to the border with Croatia, where preparations are underway for the third annual Floating Man Festival. It's being attended by libertarians and crypto enthusiasts from all over the world who've come here to discuss the future of a small, disputed, and uninhabited piece of land that they call Liberland. This region used to be one country, Yugoslavia, but when it broke apart in the 1990s, a tiny island slipped through the cracks and was left unclaimed. In 2015, a Czech citizen named Vít Jedlička planted a flag on the island and declared it a new independent nation, Liberland. Can you give us a sense of what this festival is all about?
I think it's really to focus on the basics of Liberland, the constitutional debate, the blockchain governance, the local settlement, to get Liberland working as a state. That's the main purpose.
But what's the common denominator among the people here? What makes a Liberlander a Liberlander?
People that believe in freedom and they want to start something new. They're kind of fed up with the existing systems. They understand that it's much easier to actually start new things than to fix anything in the existing political system.
People from anywhere in the world can apply for citizenship on Liberland's website and can come here to share their hottest takes on vaccines, taxes, and of course, crypto.
Today, I'll be the charlatan presenting crazy anarchist shit, and I'll be explaining why I like dark markets and what is crypto anarchy and how you can use it in daily life and how I believe it's bringing us freedom.
We don't really have diseases. The body is functioning for our protection.
As excited as its citizens might be, Liberland's future as an actual country is extremely uncertain. Something that hasn't stopped people like Zuzana Ushnarova, a Bitcoin miner who wants to be a Liberland ambassador one day. For you and many others here, Liberland is a dream, but it's just that, it's very far away from becoming a recognized state.
For you, it's just a dream, but for me, it's real. I know we want to change the world and we want to change something.
How do you want to change the world?
We would like to build maybe new Dubai here. Maybe more than Dubai. Maybe we will build something like you will transfer us to the orbit directly from here. So My dream is to have a hotel in the orbit, and everything will be paid by Bitcoin. So
A hotel in the orbit.
it's a nice dream, and it will happen. I promise you.
Do you think you have to be a little bit crazy to be a citizen of Liberland?
We are all crazy, I think. So.
Liberland proudly states it wasn't founded with force, but it was founded with quite a bit of financial backing. Specifically from people who made fortunes on early Bitcoin investments. So the plan is to use crypto for everything in Liberland. Hello. I would like a coffee, please.
Yeah, we are cryptocurrency only coffee.
Okay.
We accept Bitcoin on Lightning or Litecoin or Monero. We don't accept currency that is imposed by the state, and we accept currency that is used by people because they want, not because someone tells them to.
Although you're kind of forcing me to use it right now to get a coffee, aren't you?
Well, you are free to buy or not from us, so nobody telling you buy here.
So I just completed my first transaction using cryptocurrency.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, strange feeling. It's not just simple purchases. Liberlanders want to use crypto's blockchain technology to run the country.
So all the key institutions which Liberland wants to take care of will be all running on an immutable system.
So how do you want to take this technology from cryptocurrencies and apply it to governance?
Well, we are using it for voting in Liberland, so it's immutable. We are using it for our justice system. Our Congress will be running on it, our Senate will be running on it, and you will be able to do all your things that you need to do as a citizen.
Can you give me a concrete example of how that would work? Like something that I do, in the United States, how would it work in Liberland using blockchain technology?
Well, there will be no discussion about the results of the vote like there was in the United States. Everybody can basically make sure that nobody has cheated in the election. The same thing is in voting inside of Congress. Liberland Congress will be also using the same technology.
Explain the idea behind the merit tokens and how you plan to use those in the governance of Liberland.
If you pay taxes, you get merits. And I think it's a nice name for the fact that you have supported your country. And these merits can be used for voting.
So let me get this straight. The more taxes I pay, the more tokens I'm going to receive?
Yes.
Isn't that unfairly giving people with more money more power in the system?
I think it's much fairer than trying to give everybody the same amount of vote.
Really? Because that seems to be a fundamental part of most Western democracies, the idea of one man or one person, one vote.
Yeah,
You disagree with that?
I think it's fundamentally wrong. If you paid $20 million in taxes, you still have one vote, right? And that's one of the things that are a little bit broken about the systems that we are living in. It's very important to do it that the majority of society cannot dictate the minority, especially the minority which actually paid the taxes and made the country possible.
Liberland does have a lot of the fixings of a real nation. A flag, a motto, an anthem, even their own wine. They also have architects dreaming up the future of the island. A technological metropolis, rivaled by few cities in the world. But perhaps its biggest issue, this isn't Liberland. Liberland is a floodplain a few miles away with zero infrastructure. And the Croatian Border Patrol will arrest anyone who goes there. But the threat of arrest wasn't going to stop these Liberlanders from the festival's rousing climax. A float to the island that gave many their first glimpse of their new self-declared homeland.
I want to listen to me. Please, all of you, go out from this boat. Because we are sinking. Do you understand?
And a sinking boat wouldn't stop them either. Right now, Vit, the president of Liberland, is going to put us on these boats, and we're going to go and visit this small island in the Danube River that he is claiming as Liberland, the new country.
Jump on.
Let's go. All right. You know what you're doing? You know how to drive a boat?
I have license for
Okay, good.
9 years now.
All right. Where are we right now? Is that Croatia?
That's Croatia, that's Serbia.
Okay, so that's Croatia, that's Serbia. It must be hard building a nation that you need a speedboat to access.
It's still much easier than starting a country, for example, in the middle of Atlantic Ocean.
True.
This is just a 10-minute boat ride. We're quite fast, now it's around 70 kilometers per hour. It's a nice ride.
But one boat of pioneers had a far from easy voyage. We have some stranded Liberlanders here, huh? We got a paddle. Do you guys need an extra paddle?
Then I think we will have to pull you back to that beach over there.
That's right. Thank you.
How long ago did you depart? Stranded
We've been
for
out
a long
here for
time.
hours.
I think you guys need to untie yourself, yes, and if it's not working, we have to figure out why it's not working.
So can someone grab and pull?
Just as the boat neared the promised land, the colonizers were met by the Croatian border guard. Hey, we got the police. Right here. So Vit, can you describe what's happening right now? It seems like we got the
We need to find
Croatian
out who these
police.
guys are. Yeah, let's talk to them.
All right. Are they trying to get us to stop here?
No, I want to talk to them.
Okay. All right, so we've just reached
Dobar dan.
the land of Liberland, and we're being stopped now by Croatian
No,
border
we're
police.
not being stopped. We're not being stopped. Actually, they,
Okay, just saying hello. All right. So we're not being stopped. Do the Croatian authorities ever give you a hard time when you're trying to reach Liberland?
Well, they are guarding Liberland quite well. I appreciate it.
Are they protecting in the sense of protecting the security of Liberlanders, or are they protecting it in the sense of trying to stop you from reaching there?
Well, they are actually doing both at the same time. That's the fun part. This boa, this green boa, and that side is a border of Liberland. We are entering Liberland.
So we've now entered your
Liberland
country.
waters. Liberland waters, yes.
This is Liberland.
Yes. By the way, that's actually, this part is dedicated for the cemetery of Liberland. That's where my ancestors are buried.
They no. What do you mean?
We did a ceremony.
You've actually taken your ancestors' remains and buried them here?
Ashes.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. Susanna, as one of Liberland's newest residents, newest citizens, how does it feel to see Liberland for the first time?
I feel like I came home. I'm so blessed.
It feels like home, even though you can't really access it or live there or rent an apartment.
Yeah, I can imagine. I will be live here in a few years, so.
Quite some time ago, there was this tough guy from the local police and said, you know, Liberland is just an imagination. And I said, all countries are virtual concepts. They're nothing but imaginary concepts that we are creating in our heads. You know, I think it's a kind of the moral story of Liberland, right? And the more people, of course, believe in that cause, the more powerful that cause is. I really believe that the constitution that we have made has combined the best elements of existing constitutions with the best element of blockchain technology. We are defining the future of free countries on this planet.
Obviously, Liberland is just one example of people getting crypto rich and getting a little ahead of themselves with what they can dream up. But they're not wrong about nation states being imaginary. It's just that whatever they replace them with risks having the same issues. Motherboard's Edward Angueso Jr. and urban researcher Jillian Crandall are joining me to talk about how that might already be happening. Thank you guys both for joining me. Obviously, Liberland is a thing. It's happening in the real world too, if you want to talk about Liberland not being the real world. But tell me about Liberland, Jillian. Like, what is it? What are these people after? And what does it mean?
Right. Well, my understanding is that this is essentially a crypto anarcho-capitalist nation come perhaps true. My understanding also is that really stems from the foundation of a very explicit tax haven from the EU that people who are self-proclaimed techno-libertarians, right libertarians, come together and form their own community.
In Liberland, it's not one vote, one person. It's like how much crypto you have equals how many votes you have. The best reading of that from my mind is like, that's kind of how it works in the world anyway. Like if you have a bunch of money, like you get to control politics in a way that you or I who don't have a bunch of money can anyhow. And it could be, it's very odious to think like, oh, if you have a bunch of money, then you have more power and more votes. That's like a shitty way of organizing society. I think we can all kind of agree on that. But is there something refreshing about hearing someone say, this is actually going to be the way our country works is if you have more money, you got more political power.
If they're transparent about that, then I suppose you can choose whether or not to be a part of that system. Where I get concerned is where these systems are being rolled out as a techno fix for a more efficient governance system that allows its citizens to participate in a voting structure that is being told is a very democratic voting structure. We're just increasing efficiencies because it's using computational technologies and using the blockchain, which is a very transparent, trustless system. People might say, yeah, absolutely, I want to get behind that. I like how that sounds, but maybe not understand that it's really the more tokens you have, the more votes you have, the more pull you have.
Yeah, and I would also say, like in the United States, there's always been a huge, of course, gulf between the rhetoric and the reality. You have a country founded with words about equality for all by slave owners, right?
Yep.
And you can argue that the rhetoric, at least some of the people convinced themselves they believed it and tried to push for shifts in the system that might realize whatever it is that they thought that they believed about liberty or equality. But in the crypto communities, I think it's more of like a Trojan horse or more of like a thing to appeal to people where the understanding they all have is that they are not trying to build like some society where everyone is equal. They're trying to build a society where there's more power given to corporations or to individuals with a lot of money and with like some billionaire's fever dream about like what society should look like.
It's not about the technology, it's about the people, right? That's the bottom line here. And what we should be paying attention to is what is a culture that is attracting people to this technology and the communities that are formed around it. We can't paint everyone with the same brush. But like what is the portrait that's emerging?
White.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were going to say. Yeah, white. It's like Liberland is pretty white. Yeah. Of course, it's in Europe.
Well,
but like,
yeah, usually what we see, in these cases, it's a relatively young man who is saying, what would the world be if I and my friends were able to solve all the problems?
It feels like the way that tech is usually developed, it's like idiosyncratic person with way too much money on their hand decides, like, I'm just going to develop this thing. They also have an ideological purpose or agenda behind it that would not fly anywhere else. And so they're using places to develop it and get away with something that they shouldn't.
It is also creating value though, right? Like cryptocurrencies make people money. That's not necessarily like a bad thing. So what is it about this process that we're going through in the early days of like how blockchain gets rolled out around the world, or the blockchains, because there are many of them.
Yes.
So let's start with El Salvador, right? Like, because I've been there. Like, I met the president once, and he seems like a cool dude, and seems like it's cool, right?
He's the coolest dictator, self-proclaimed on Twitter bio.
Explain to me what is happening in El Salvador as it relates to Bitcoin Beach, and these sorts of things. Just like what happened.
So the Bitcoin law is this law that was passed to mandate that all businesses would have to transact or trade in crypto, specifically Bitcoin. This is in a country where most of the people do not have bank accounts, do not have reliable access to the internet, but the bill is structured and was partially written by this guy whose company owns an app on which people will be able to transfer their money into Bitcoin. So it's supposed to now incentivize the creation of this whole new financial system that is based largely on Bitcoin.
I mean, that's ambitious.
So the concern here, the real problem is that for people in El Salvador, if they're going to shift entirely onto crypto, their wages, their wealth are going to be more vulnerable to it. When it goes down, it screws me and everyone I know over, but it's going up and it's going to add more to the pockets of these people who came in, set it up, and made us all adopt it and expose our livelihood to it.
I see. So there's, 4 million people living in El Salvador. Effectively, you have a government saying, all 4 million of you, maybe you should buy some Bitcoin. I'm sitting in New York, and I'm like, oh, cool. 4 million people are now buying this, so the price is going to go up. So there is the extracting of value that we might call a kind of colonialist project.
And then I'll come in and I'll set up some projects to help ensure that those 4 million people not only use it, but stay using it or figure out more ways to use it. And then I'll try to maybe set up more projects in other countries. You have both the president, signaling intention to, make cryptocurrency acceptable alongside dollars, in addition to investors coming in and saying that we'll back those projects, we'll develop them, we'll help expand them.
So this would be a very clear instance of like an outsider with outside interests using Bitcoin as a way of conducting a social experiment on a bunch of people who live in the global south.
Yeah.
So it is very much an experimentation through colonialism, even though it's self-sanctioned from the president. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the people who are setting up are not from there. The people who are financing it are not from there. The people who are driving the direction in which it will develop are not from there.
So is it this like illusory kind of concept culturally that you can like rebuild society through cryptocurrency?
I think this is one of the many reasons to not really trust libertarians, Like, at the end of the day, sure, there's distrust of concentrated power, but whose? It's power outside of them that they can't as easily control, which means they don't really care about other people or their friends having a lot of wealth. They don't care about corporations having a lot of power and autonomy. They really care about the state that might come in and limit or regulate them and their activities.
Yeah, and I think there are some projects we can look to as alternate design around cryptocurrency that isn't just purely profit-driven. For example, the Faircoin case in Catalonia with Faircoop. Now, it was founded under cooperative principles and implemented, it did a good job in terms of democratic organization. Of course, the issues that they're running into is, well, how do we, maybe we don't agree in the way that this should move forward. And so you have a fork that comes off. And it's never an easy solution, but just acknowledging that it's not an easy solution and staying with the trouble, as Donna Haraway would say, let's just spend some time and work through this.
Is there a possibility that, I guess, can't it work out? Yes,
I would love for
a
it
lot
to
of
work
signs
out.
that are there that hey, this might be messed up. This is reminds us of this or that. Signs are there, but maybe we're just looking at the wrong signs.
Cryptocurrency will definitely work out, but the problem is for who, right? I think that is the real question. We are concerned about patterns and signs and frameworks that suggest and have always led to in the past something working for a very small group of people who will just use it to move on to the next thing that they will make work for a very small group of people.
If this project just makes a bunch of El Salvadorians rich, great. But it's also set up to make the existing rich even richer. And if we are aware of that, then just call it like it is, Okay.
Well, thank you both for joining me today and talking through all this. I feel optimistic, right?
We'll see.
That's it for us today. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.